Welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by FilmBook. My name is Matt Brunet, but some of you may know me as AniMat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and AniMat's reviews. If this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, well, look at the title. You see it, right? Okay, the title called The Animation Podcast. That pretty much explains everything for you. It's one of those podcasts where the title pretty much says it all. But specifically, though, it talks about the latest news that happened this week. So, first things first, in this episode, I would go and look onto the little extra details that we know about the upcoming sequel to the Angry Birds movie. Then afterwards, we will be having our first look into the Hotel Transylvania series. Then afterwards, we will be looking in an all-new DC animated series brought to you by Faust. Then afterwards, we will be looking into the new director of an animated Jetsons movie that will happen in the future. And then finally, we will end things off with AniMat's Pick of the Week. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then all you have to do is head on down to FilmBook, that is a film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also go and email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. And so the first thing we are going to be talking about is regarding a sequel that we already know that's going to be coming. We've heard the announcement before about the Angry Birds Movie 2. Well, interestingly enough, though, this week, we have actually heard a bit more news about what's going to be going on with this movie. So, the only thing that we've known before is the fact that there is going to be an Angry Birds Movie 2, and that they wanted to put it in 2019. Well, apparently Sony Pictures Entertainment has actually made an announcement that we are hearing a little bit more about what's going to be going on among the crew, and when are we going to see the Angry Birds Movie 2. So, first things first, yes, Sony Pictures actually did make the announcement that the Angry Birds Movie 2 is definitely going to be a thing. Now, the first thing that they have announced is going to be who are the directors of this movie. And no, it's not going to be the same one as in the first movie, but like the first movie, we're going to have two all-new directors that they're pretty much going to get their first shot at directing a feature film. The first one that we have is going to be Thorup Van Orman, which you may know as the creator of The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and also John Rice, who was previously the lead storyboard artist of the original Angry Birds movie. So he kind of got a promotion to become a full-on director. And of course, he actually did do some directing jobs on the Angry Birds movie, specifically on the Hatchling shorts. And not only that, but there are a few people who will be coming back as well, along with some new people. Like producer John Cohen will be coming back for this movie, and also Peter Eckerman is going to be writing the screenplay this time. Now, in terms of the animation, however, that is still going to be provided by Sony Pictures Imageworks along with some help from Sony Pictures Animation, while production designer Pete Oswald and character art director Francesca Nattel will also be coming back to work on this movie. Now, if I may go and take a quote from Katie Leveranta, the CEO of Ravio Entertainment, because keep in mind, this is a collaboration between Sony and Ravio, the same people that actually made the original games that they were based on, and the official big home of Angry Birds. She has stated, "We are thrilled to be teaming up again with Sony Pictures after the fantastic cooperation in the first movie, and I can't wait to experience the new journey in the upcoming film. Ravio is continuing to focus on creating exciting new stories and experiences around our games, and we're eager to take fans back into the vibrant Angry Birds world on the big screen." We also got another quote here from Sanford Panich, the president of Columbia Pictures, stating, "The Angry Birds movie took the world by storm last year, creating a whole new legion of fans worldwide. We had an incredible experience working with our friends and creative partners at Ravio, and now now we, including our team at Sony Pictures Imageworks, are ready to launch into this next adventure. Another big thing that they have announced regarding the Angry Birds Movie 2 is going to be the release date, which we do have specifics onto it, which is going to be on September 20th, 2019. And the big reason why they want to put it there is mainly because they want to also associate it with the 10th anniversary of the original Angry Birds games that the movies are based on. And I want to start things off by immediately putting my comments onto the release date, because it is rather unusual when you think about it, moving from May and then suddenly going on to somewhere in the end of September. Because keep in mind, I do understand why they want to go and do it because of this big milestone anniversary. As I'm recording this, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tale has been out in theaters, and it has been a while since the last Pirates movie that was released in 2011, but the reason why they want to release a Pirates movie in 2017, or at least the biggest reason that I can think of, is to more connect it with the 50th anniversary of the original Disney attraction it was based on. So I do get that, but it is rather weird that you would move from May, which is usually a pretty good month for movies, where they would go and start getting the momentum of the summer blockbusters, and then all the way down to September, which usually that would be kind of the beginning of the dead month that it would ultimately be in October. But then again, Sony has gotten some good luck by putting their animated films at the end of September. Specifically, however, with the Hotel Transylvania movies. In fact, when you do look at the records of the highest grossing openings of that month, both Hotel Transylvania films actually do take the top spot. But other than that, most movies that would be released at the end of September, they don't necessarily fare out well. And there is a bit of an explanation, because it is the end of summer and school has started, so kids are not usually that enthusiastic to go out and watch movies and all that kind of stuff. And there is also a unique aspect onto how Hotel Transylvania broke records, because since it was placed at the end of September, Hotel Transylvania basically put that fuel into hyping up for Halloween, since it's pretty much strategically placed there to get people into the Halloween spirit, to get that going. Now, it is rather unusual that the third movie would suddenly go and move that onto like at the end of July, which is a little bit of an unusual move, but I guess they got a little too cocky with Hotel Transylvania, I guess. But I don't know, that, like, at least for me personally, I feel like the smarter move for Sony would have been to just keep it in September, kind of like make it more of a tradition, and to keep it intact with the Halloween tone. Other than that, I don't know how it's going to fare out at the end of July. But that's Hotel Transylvania 3. I'm going into the Angry Birds movie. And yeah, like, I honestly, by putting it there, it's going to be pretty hard to imagine if the Angry Birds movie will get those same numbers as the Hotel Transylvania films. But I don't know. Like, the Angry Birds is usually a pretty big franchise, and even the movies, I would say they are a modest success. Like, when I read the quotes, Ravio and Sony really did hype up on the success of the movie, but I wouldn't say it's too big. Like, it did do well, but it's not like one of the biggest movies of 2016, especially in the year when there are two animated features that made $1 billion at the box office, like Finding Dory and Zootopia. Like, with the Angry Birds movie, it only made like $350 million worldwide. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's only a humble and modest success. Like, it managed to get some profit out of it at the very least. So yeah, like, I don't know if it's going to make a massive effect by putting Angry Birds somewhere at the end of September, but we'll see. Maybe it'll manage to get away with making about as much as the first, but that would probably be excuse me, I forgot how to speak, but I don't know. I think it'll be like best case scenario, it'll get up to those numbers. Now, in the case of the Angry Birds movie 2 itself, honestly, it's still pretty hard to determine, and I feel like it could end up in the same position as the first Angry Birds movie. I think, in theory, everybody can agree that making an entire feature film based on Angry Birds sounds absolutely stupid. Like, yes, technically, there have been, like, the Angry Birds tunes and stuff like that, but this one is, like, no connection to any of the previous Angry Birds things that they have done other than the games themselves. But I will give credit to the people at Sony, both the crew, the animators, the artists, and even the voice cast, actually. They did a pretty good job. I will give them credit that they did do the best they can with such a stupid concept. It didn't turn out as one of the best animated films of the year, but it could have been a lot worse. Then also, I gotta say, holy crap, the animation is fantastic. Easily, like, sure, it's not the best animated film of the year, but it has some of the best animation of that year in terms of mainstream big budget animated features. Like, they did do a pretty solid job, I must say. I was very impressed with that. But going on to this, it does still feel like a mystery with how the Angry Birds movie 2 is going to go, especially when, once again, we got a couple of new directors coming in. We don't know if they're going to bring in a new flavor, if the humor is still going to be intact, if Van Orman and Rice are still going to follow, if they'll attempt to follow the same footsteps as the previous directors. And even if people would be familiar with The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get a show like that onto the big screen, because there is a big difference between directing a TV show and also directing a movie. There definitely is a fine line there, and not every TV director can come out on top by being also a good movie director. There is a massive difference right there. So who knows? Maybe they could turn out great, maybe they won't. It's still hard to determine, but honestly, when I do think about the idea alone about making another Angry Birds movie, with the way that the first movie came out and it basically just delivered what the title says, it's a movie about Angry Birds, so you get what your money you get what your money paid for, because it actually did that. I could be a little bit more open to see what they could do with an Angry Birds movie too, because they only scratched the surface with what they could do with an Angry Birds movie. There are plenty of things that they can do, especially with all the different spin-off games, with the pigs, or the sequel to the game itself, Angry Birds 2. There are plenty of possibilities that they could go into, introducing new birds with new abilities, or like all different sorts of machineries that the pigs can think up. Now, we did get a little bit of a preview of that in the first movie, where the pigs would be flying on planes and they would think up of many different contraptions, and even the big boat where they entered onto Bird Island. Honestly, I'm sure there could be some creative ideas that the crew can think up, maybe to bring a new story onto the Angry Birds movie. Like, the material is there, and I know maybe it could come out as something that could suck, but I'm not saying to put your expectations high. I mean, keep in mind, it's an Angry Birds movie, so it's like what I said before. What you see is pretty much what you get. If you're going to come in watching the Angry Birds movie, all you have to do is expect a movie about Angry Birds. That's it. That's all. So who knows how it could probably turn out. But if you guys are anticipated to go and check out the Angry Birds movie, then mark your calendars on September 20th, 2019 to go and celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Angry Birds game by going to watch the Angry Birds movie 2. Our next story that we have right over here is a mashup that a lot of people thought was very unusual. In fact, it was something that nobody really expected, to be honest, considering that this seems to be a collaboration with Disney Channel and Sony Pictures Animation. Like, you would never expect to see a Sony movie somehow appear into something that is labeled with Disney. And I am talking, of course, about the Hotel Transylvania series. Now, yes, people are pretty much aware of what it is and what it could be about and all that kind of stuff. But just in case, if you guys don't know, allow me to give you a little bit of a reminder of what the series has in store. Now, this is not directly a movie turned into a TV show kind of thing. This is a little bit of a spin-off because what they have done is more of a prequel. So one of the best things that I can immediately say about the series is that it doesn't have Johnny in there, which is a massive freaking improvement. Like, oh my god. Like, now it just made this a bit more tolerable, actually. But to go and read the synopsis for you. With Dracula away on official vampire business, Mavis finally sees her chance to show her father what she can do. With the help of her friends that consist of Hank and Stein, Pedro, the mummy, and Wendy Blob, she decided to put her brilliant ideas on how to run the hotel into motion. But enter Aunt Lydia, Dracula's older and much meaner sister. While Mavis and friends are ready to let loose and have fun, Aunt Lydia pushes for even more order and tradition at the hotel. And somehow, just by reading about Aunt Lydia, I just somehow have flashbacks of The Little Mermaid 2, where you just see Sebastian is like, Dracula's crazy sister! No, but I think it's pretty obvious why they can't actually use Drac. Mainly because, well, for one, they can't really get Adam Sandler, so this is just the poor excuse of getting in Aunt Lydia, because I got a feeling that Aunt Lydia is just going to be a character that's going to be there as an excuse to say, oh, well, we can't really get Adam Sandler, so we just got that. Technically, yes, I think I repeated myself twice right there, but yeah, you pretty much get the whole idea, is that this is a bit of a spin-off prequel that stars Mavis and her friends in the hotel. And we actually did get this short little 7-second clip showing a little bit of the intro, where you just see Mavis and her friends just going down the hall of Hotel Transylvania, just giving you a little bit of a taste of what the animation would be. And yeah, this might sound crazy of me to say, but actually, just by looking at that little clip, I'm gonna say right now, I was actually really impressed with the animation. Like, honestly, I look at that and I feel like the animation here feels right at home. It's like what I've said in my reviews of the Hotel Transylvania movies. The entire style of the animation is not necessarily meant for computer animation, but it feels like it fits a lot better onto television animation. It does have a bit of that cheap quality that says that the budget is not necessarily big enough to make some actual good animation, but we're doing the best we can with it. So putting it right here, and plus the addition of 2D animation, it actually does look great. Everything fits well, and honestly, it's just fantastic. Just by looking at that little clip, it like honestly, on a visual standpoint, it feels like it definitely has a lot of potential, which honestly is something that I could say, like, I could say that a lot more than with the other Sony animation series that they have with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where at one point I did think that, oh, maybe the character designs are meant to fit well in 2D animation, so maybe they'll do that there. But then once the TV show is out, like, I just see a picture of it and I'm just like, yeah! Oh, good God, never mind. Holy crap, you look even worse. Jesus, put that thing in a freaking fire. Put the whole franchise in a fire, seriously. No, but yeah, like, honestly, in an animation standpoint, it feels like it's right at home. It's probably the best animation that I've seen from Hotel Transylvania, period. Like, the fact that it is in 2D and made for television is probably the biggest thing that it did help. And if you guys are curious about who made it in the first place, well, that's actually Canadian animation that you're witnessing, coming from Nelvana, which I'm pretty sure you guys are a bit familiar with it. And on top of that, if you are curious about a little bit more info about the Hotel Transylvania series that's going to be going on, there are 26 episodes that are planned so far, or for this one season. And on top of that, there is also another announcement that they've made, or at least that Disney Channel has done. It's stated here in my source on Cartoon Brew, beginning Sunday, June 4th, Disney Channel will also debut 3 new shorts on its YouTube account and the Disney Channel app to build anticipation for the series. The shorts follow Mavis and her dad Drac as he prepares to join the Vampire Council. So you'll pretty much just get these little cartoons with Mavis and Dracula. But the one thing I will say, though, about this series is that even though, yes, I think Nelvana actually did do a good job on the animation to actually make Hotel Transylvania look good for once. But the one big issue, and that's going to be the big determination on how this series is going to go, is the writing. Now, whether you like it or not, I think we can all agree that the writing of the Hotel Transylvania movies are not its strongest suit. Like, nobody would really go and look at Hotel Transylvania and say that the best thing about it is the quality of the writing or the complexity of the characters and the arc that they're experiencing and all that kind of stuff, or like the originality of the story and, you know, all that aspect right over there. Nobody would ever say that about Hotel Transylvania. It's for the most part, it's not really that well written. It's pretty much written in a way that they feel more like 90-minute cartoons than they actually do feel like a legitimate movie. And we don't know if this is going to continue with the Hotel Transylvania series, if the writing isn't going to be all that great and Nelvana is just going to be treating it like, you know, just a run-of-the-mill TV show with nothing really special to offer. But the one thing I will say, though, that is rather interesting, and I do, like, I think I might have an idea of how this series might actually turn out, is that the one thing that I got massive vibes out of this Hotel Transylvania series is that I feel like this is trying to go with the same trend that happened back in the late 80s and early 90s, where they decided to take a popular group of characters and just turn them into kids. You know that fad that I'm talking about, that pretty much started with Muppet Babies, and then Hanna-Barbera went insane over it and decided to go and create shows like Tom and Jerry Kids, Flintstones Kids, and a pup named Scooby-Doo, and all that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like this is pretty much the same thing. This is basically Hotel Transylvania Kids. Now, I know technically this isn't actually the kid version of, like, Adam Sandler's crew, but in Universal Monsters, but it is kind of the same thing. Like, you got a bunch of ragtag kids that are pretty much taking over this hotel, and then you got this one, like, one adult that's just there. It's like, oh, we'll put in order and tradition onto all this. You know, that's pretty much how I feel. And honestly, that could be the make or break situation because honestly, I don't know if I could see that this series could actually go pretty far because for the most part, it's pretty much made for the Hotel Transylvania fans. It's made for that niche market right there. But rather, if it's capable of finding a way to go and expand and find new audiences to enjoy the show and stuff like that, and could maybe end up being a hit for Disney Channel, that I honestly don't know. And it's something that we'll have to wait and see. Like, I'll give Hotel Transylvania this. This series definitely looks like it has a lot more potential than the Cloudy series that they have right over there. Honestly, for the most part, from what I've heard, it doesn't look like to be that good of a show to begin with, or at least from the many different feedbacks that I've been getting from many others. Like, it could be possible that the Cloudy series could be finishing off after its first season, but Hotel Transylvania, who knows the direction that it could go, especially the fact that it does star Mavis, and my god, people would go freaking crazy for Mavis, sometimes on a Zonton level. Don't ask what that means. But yeah, who knows how this series is going to go, but if you guys are interested to see how Hotel Transylvania is going to be on Disney Channel, it'll actually go and make its premiere on June 25th, and then following afterwards, where you can see the rest of the episodes every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, starting on June 29th. Now, our next story that we have right over here, we're going to be talking about the DC TV shows. Now, as you guys may know, with the DC Cinematic Universe, they're really not going well. I mean, sure, they do give Warner Brothers some money, but they're not necessarily getting a good reputation, especially with Suicide Squad and Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Maybe Wonder Woman can probably change a few things, but for that, we'll have to wait and see. Who knows how that's going to go right over there. However, their TV shows do actually gain a lot of momentum and do have a lot of credibility and good reputation. Arguably even more than Marvel, or at least Marvel on cable, with shows like The Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, and Legions of Tomorrow, and so much more. Now, in animation, well, there's Teen Titans Go, and maybe it's best if I don't talk about it, or else I will I will cause some rage from the podcast. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll trigger a few people just by mentioning Teen Titans Go. However, there is a new TV show that's going to be coming on Cartoon Network that could put a new spin on the animated DC world, and I am talking about the DC Superhero Girls. And this is actually a new thing that Cartoon Network has actually picked up for 2018. Now, if I may go in my source here on Deadline, it actually stated Warner Brothers Animation has kicked off production on DC Superhero Girls, which follows not-so-typical teenagers Diana, aka Wonder Woman, Kara, aka Supergirl, and Barbara, aka Batgirl. Alongside their superhero friends, they have much more to deal with than just protecting the citizens of Metropolis from some of their most sinister Schoolage supervillains of the DC Universe. The action comedy series will be from producer Lauren Faust, which you may probably know Lauren Faust as the woman who put her mark in animation to take a property like My Little Pony that society has seen as something that's made exclusively for little girls and turn that into a worldwide phenomenon that is mostly enjoyed by the opposite of the original target audience, which is grown men. And on top of that, continuing right over here, It also stated that Gal Pals, Bumblebee, Zatanna, and Green Lantern's Jessica Cruz are always there to lend an ear, a shoulder to cry, and a fist to punch with, and their bros in the Justice League amp up the fun, whether they're at a concert or taking down a crime ring. But what happens when Diana and her favorite study buddy and fencing partner Tatsu can't agree on how to dole out justice as Wonder Woman and Katana? Or when Barbara finds out her Gotham Con bestie is teen fiend Harley Quinn? Along with all their friends, foes, and frenemies, this squad of super teens navigate the unique growing pains that come when you're a teenager trying to fight the battles of the world and the battles of growing up at the same time. Now, when I do look at this and hear that Lauren Faust is going to be putting her touch onto the DC superhero girls, I do feel like it could end up being a blessing and a curse. I mean, it's great that they brought in Lauren Faust. In fact, she's probably the perfect woman to go and tackle on a TV show like this. I mean, like I said before, she did take My Little Pony and turn it into this massive phenomenon, so it could be easy to imagine that she could be capable of doing that with some new interpretations of the DC superhero girls. So maybe her version of Wonder Woman and Batgirl and Supergirl might turn out superior than what we would get with the movies and other TV shows. So she definitely does have the capabilities, and of course Warner Brothers knew exactly what they're doing by bringing in Lauren Faust. Now, the reason why I say that there is a possibility that it could end up being a curse is that I'm worried that this TV show could end up being like My Little Pony, but just with DC superheroes. In that route, I feel like there is a possibility it could be a little bit lazy in a sense, where you just take the template of My Little Pony and just put in whatever roles that they have for DC superhero girls and just put them there. Like, make Wonder Woman the Twilight Sparkle, or make Batgirl the Rarity, or Supergirl as the Rainbow Dash, while you would also have Harley Quinn as the Pinkie Pie, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, that I do feel like it could be a bit of a dangerous route right over there, and it may put a little bit of a trample onto Lauren Faust's reputation, where she could look like a one-trick pony, no pun intended. So that could be the worst case scenario. But then again, I do trust Lauren Faust that she would be capable of bringing in something original, and I think that's the big key element right over here, is to find a way to take something like this and try to figure out something original, not go into something that we have seen that is rather familiar, like go into the Powerpuff Girls route, or go into the My Little Pony route, or to even go into the Teen Titans route. Just go and create its own thing. And most of the stuff that it does offer, it does sound like, well, we're going to get a lot of superhero action, of course, but we're also going to get some like high school dilemmas right over here, and some other teenage issues on another side. So maybe there could be a situation that Lauren Faust might actually go and pick this up and know how to do it in a way that we haven't seen from her career before. Who knows how it could go, but you know, I trust that Lauren Faust is capable of trying to do something good with it. Who knows how this is going to go? But if you guys are actually excited to go and check out Faust's DC Superhero Girls, then all you have to do is just wait until 2018, when the series is going to be released. Now, for our next story, we're still going to remain in Warner Brothers, but we're going to jump from television onto the movies, where kind of like what Warner Brothers Television did by bringing in Lauren Faust to work on a DC project, the Warner Brothers movie division actually did bring in a director to work on a pretty familiar project, I must say. And that is actually regarding an animated Jetsons movie. Yes, Warner Brothers has actually made an announcement that Warner Animation Group is going to be creating a fully animated feature based on the Jetsons. And the only piece of information that we know so far is that they actually brought in Conrad Vernon, one of the directors of Sausage Party, to go and work on the Jetsons. And beforehand, I just want to mention right now that if you guys don't know who Conrad Vernon is, outside of Sausage Party, the guy is a total veteran of DreamWorks animation. He has done a lot of work there, and on top of that, did a few directing jobs as well. He was the co-director of numerous of films in there, including Shrek 2, Monsters vs. Aliens, and Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. And even in my source here in The Hollywood Reporter stated that he, just a little cute fact, that he is the voice of the gingerbread man in the Shrek movies. Now, if you guys are familiar with the previous news that did occur with Warner Animation, you may probably know that they are actually going to make a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, with the first one being Scooby-Doo, in which they announced is going to be out by 2020. It was supposed to be next year, but Warner's ultimately decided to go and delay that. And honestly, that's why I feel that it's rather unusual that they actually did announce that they're making a Jetsons movie beforehand, because I'm not 100% sure if they have made previous announcements before about like what other projects they want to look into. But so far, the only ones that we know that are going to be a part of this Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe is that they're going to make a movie on Scooby-Doo, which makes sense. I mean, it could possibly be Hanna-Barbera's most popular character that they have created. And then they are also going to be making the Jetsons, which is the announcement that they've made right over here. And I do feel a little bit weird that they did announce that they're going to make the Jetsons, because honestly, other than Scooby-Doo, the most popular Hanna-Barbera series is the Flintstones, and it's the one that Warner Brothers had kept on marketing on and on and on about it. Like people would think of the Flintstones first before the Jetsons. In fact, in the history of Hanna-Barbera, they pretty much made the Flintstones first, and then they would make the Jetsons, which is kind of like the opposite of the Flintstones, where you kind of got this family prime time show that goes into the space age instead of the Stone Age. And I'm surprised that Warner Brothers is actually going a lot more on track with the Jetsons, more so than with the Flintstones. I mean, I'm not saying that like they're putting priority on the Jetsons first before the Flintstones. I'm sure Hanna-Barbera, they've been gone a long time ago. I'm sure that the people at Warner Animation Group are planning several Hanna-Barbera movies, including the Flintstones, but I guess they did find a little bit more traction with the Jetsons. But then again, there could be a little bit of an explanation why they want to go and do a Jetsons movie, like put it a little bit more of a priority, more so than their other movies. And the reason why is that for a very long time, for decades even, Hollywood has been trying so hard to go and create a Jetsons movie, a Jetsons live action movie, mind you. And that was pretty much in response after the huge success that they've had with the live action Flintstones movie starring John Goodman. There have been numerous of attempts from either Universal or Paramount or whatever that they tried so hard to turn the Jetsons into a live action movie, where at one point they even got Robert Rodriguez to go and make that feature, but unfortunately nothing really happened. And this is not the first time that there is going to be a Jetsons movie, period. There was one that already did exist back in 1990 with the Jetsons movie, and it was actually credited as the final feature film to ever feature George O'Hanlon and Mel Blanc, just doing voiceover work in general. I mean, it's sad, but that's actually their final work right there. And in a way, it does suck in a sense because, well, it's rather unfortunate for them because the movie really sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I have reviewed it, and that movie was just awful. It was just poorly written, and it's also really dated as well because I forgot her name, but for Judy Jetson, they got this pop singer, and wow, she was mostly there to provide like some promotional music for the movie, but she cannot act. Like, she's just there. Oh, daddy! Oh, you gotta calm down. I want to see this rock star. Oh my god, daddy! Oh, she was infuriating to listen to. My god. But yeah, going back onto this one, what is actually interesting is that I'm actually pretty surprised that they did announce that they are going to make a Jetsons movie right now, considering that the one that's supposed to start the entire Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe is actually Scooby-Doo, and that movie won't be coming out until 2020. And in the case of the Jetsons, if that would be the case, we're not going to be hearing anything else from it for a long time. I'm pretty much expecting the release date on this would probably be sometime either in 2021 or most likely either in 2022 or 2023, somewhere around that time. So who knows how this is going to go, or who knows if this could actually even come into fruition. I feel like there is a possibility we might not even have a script yet. Like, Warner Animation Group is just preparing to make a Jetsons movie, and they just signed in Conrad Vernon to go and work on this series. So, who knows how this is going to go, but yeah. Eventually coming soon, there could be a possibility we will have a fully animated Jetsons movie, but let's hope this time it won't be with wrestlers. That could actually be a good promise right there. And now it is time that we shall end things off with AniMat's Pick of the Week. And what a coincidence, for the sake of this podcast, that we will end things off with this story right over here. Considering that I started the podcast with an upcoming sequel to an animated feature, so why don't we take this recent piece of news and end things off with an upcoming sequel to an animated feature. However, with this one though, I'm honestly having a bit of a hard time to see what else can they do with the material that they have here. I will give credit to the Angry Birds movie. I can see where they can make a sequel with it and take inspirations from many of the other games that they've made, like with the Piggies, or with Angry Birds 2, like the game Angry Birds 2, and all that kind of stuff. I can see where they can expand upon the world of the Angry Birds. But with this one, however, how the fridge can you make a sequel to The Boss Baby? Yes, folks, it has actually been confirmed at DreamWorks Animation that they are in fact making a Boss Baby 2. Now, there isn't any much announcements related to this, however. The only things that they did say, going into my source here in Variety, it did state that the sequel brings back the creative team from the sleeper hit for a new adventure based on award-winning author Maria Frazi's picture book series. So, okay, maybe there is a chance that they are going to take some inspiration from the books, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, they didn't necessarily specify who among the crew is going to be coming back. They didn't necessarily state that the writer or even director Tom McGrath is going to be coming back, but I do have a feeling that McGrath is definitely going to be coming back for the sequel as the director. But one person in name that they did confirm that will be returning is actually Alec Baldwin to come back as the voice of the title character. And on top of that, they also did announce that there is going to be a release date for it, which right now is going to be a little bit around the same time, which is March 26th, but in 2021. And that's all that we know so far, is the fact that Alec Baldwin is coming back, DreamWorks is making a Boss Baby 2, and that it's going to be released somewhere in the beginning of 2021. I can't really say somewhere in the beginning because we know where that somewhere is. But yeah, like I stated before, I'm actually having a really hard time to figure out how the fridge can DreamWorks actually go and make a Boss Baby 2. Because I'm thinking both in a creative standpoint and a business standpoint, where I'm looking ahead in the future and I don't really see how this is really gonna work out, to be honest. Because let me just explain first about the creative aspect of it. Let's go into the story of the Boss Baby itself. And beforehand, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a warning, however, that this is going to contain some spoilers of the original Boss Baby, so if you guys want to avoid that, then just skip a little bit ahead so that you don't hear anything, or throughout the podcast, you could just cover your ears and go la 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 la, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but anyways, if you guys remember, or if you have actually seen the Boss Baby, then you may recall at the end of the movie, it pretty much wraps everything up. It seems to be like it's made to be its standalone movie and doesn't open up to anything that would indicate that there could be more adventures with Tim and the Boss Baby. Like, what ends up happening is that after Tim and the Boss Baby would defeat the CEO of Puppy Co., things would go and get back to normal, and the Boss Baby would get a massive promotion, and he's not necessarily that happy, but then he discovers that Tim also misses the Boss Baby, so the Boss Baby ultimately decided that he wanted to quit his job and actually go and become just a regular baby and actually be Tim's official baby brother and do all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, though, when he does get back into the world of, like, the regular human world and be with Tim and stuff like that, he's just back as a regular baby. Like, all his memories are pretty much washed off. The mentality of a CEO is completely gone. Now he's just your typical baby, and that's pretty much it. And Tim is having a happy life with his new baby brother, who is now called Ted. Now, in that case, how the fridge are they going to bring back the baby's mentality to become, to become the Alec Baldwin baby? Like, how are they going to bring that back? And especially the factor that the Boss Baby no longer has his, like, special milk. Because if you remember in the movie, there's that special kind of milk that the babies have to continuously drink in order to keep their mentality as a mature business person instead of being an actual baby. So I don't really know how this would actually work out, honestly. Like, does the Boss Baby suddenly find some of that magic juice and then suddenly bring it back? Or does some of his older employees, like the big dumb baby, like the big gorilla baby, the Asian baby, and the black triplets somehow have some and they decide to bring his mentality back? Or how is it going to work, honestly? Like, that's probably a big hurdle that they need to go into. How are they going to bring Tim's mentality back into becoming the Alec Baldwin baby? Because I don't know, because when you watch the movie, it seems like it's made more to be its own thing. Like, it doesn't feel like DreamWorks had any intentions to actually go and create a Boss Baby 2 or turn it into this huge franchise. So they pretty much tied up all the loose ends at the end to know what would be going on. So I don't know. It just, on a creative standpoint, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But, like I said before, and like what the quote here from Variety actually did state, that it is actually based on a series of picture books by Maria Frazee. So there could, oh no, it's not Maria, sorry. I meant to say Marla Frazee. Sorry about that, Marla. I didn't mean to mispronounce your name. I think it's just, oh yeah. No, it's literally a freaking smudge on my computer that's kind of obscuring that L and making it look like an I. I am so sorry about that. Wow, okay, so it is Marla Frazee's book series. But yeah, going back to that, so maybe they could find some inspirations on the book, and maybe they'll have some ideas of what to do to tell more stories with it. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the books, so who knows what they could do with it, but maybe they got ideas, but that's probably the biggest hurdle. How the fridge are you going to bring the boss baby back to his Alec Baldwin mentality, or how are you going to explain it? Okay, so that's the explanation in a creative standpoint, like in the story narrative inside the world of the boss baby. But also there is a bit of a business standpoint that doesn't necessarily make sense, because part of its success of why the boss baby nowadays is actually a major hit is actually because of, and yes, I'm gonna bring him up, Donald freaking Trump. Now, as you may recall, in a previous episode of the Animation Podcast, I have already discussed about how there is no way that DreamWorks Animation made the Boss Baby to be this Donald Trump satire. Any connections that would have with Donald Trump, it's just purely coincidental. And there's no way that anybody, the writer, Tom McGrath, Alec Baldwin, or anybody had the intentions of mocking Donald Trump when making the Boss Baby. It's just pure coincidence that there is some kind of connection right there. However, it did not stop audiences to make those connections anyways. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons during the time when the movie was close to be released that everybody was making those comparisons to Donald Trump. And yeah, like, as I stated before, there are many connections, but they're just purely coincidental. You know, like, a lot of people would go out and say that Trump and his supporters have the maturity of a baby and can handle criticism as well as a toddler put into a timeout, much like a CEO that's actually a baby. Or that, and also Alec Baldwin is actually the star of this movie. And as we all know, on Saturday Night Live, he actually does this amazing portrayal of Donald Trump. And even during the time when The Boss Baby was released, Alec Baldwin was a pretty huge name. Like, he really made himself big by portraying as Donald Trump in Saturday Night Live. So there is at least that, and that actually did play a huge factor, considering that, like, whenever you would ask someone what is The Boss Baby, like, they would pretty much tell you it's a movie where Alec Baldwin plays Alec Baldwin as this CEO baby. You know, that's pretty much all that you get. And like, back when his name was hot and compared to Donald Trump, like, people were really into that, you know? People were really buying into this. Okay, so with all that said, though, I know I made the audience comparisons with Donald Trump. What does this have to do with The Boss Baby 2? Okay, I can guarantee you this as a fact, ladies and gentlemen, that there is no freaking way that Donald Trump will remain president of the United States when The Boss Baby 2 is going to be released. That is a fact right there. I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about the most hated and the worst president of the modern frickin' era. Like, the majority of the country hates his frickin' guts. And he would act, I mean, we're at the point that we are discussing that he's actually going to be pretty lucky if he made it throughout his entire term. Like, with the whole connection with Russia, and by the way, yes, there is actually a lot more connections with Trump and Russia than there actually is Trump and the Boss Baby. That, like, now it's starting to come in, like, closer and closer, where impeachment starts to seem a little bit possible, you know what I mean? And plus the fact that, oh my god, when it comes to, like I said before, the majority of the country hates his frickin' guts, and like the large majority of the world is pretty much mocking the country because they're that stupid to actually elect someone like frickin' Donald Trump as president, who is only beloved by the highly ignorant, who lives in their own frickin' bubble, and the mentally disturbed, who would actually go out and make protests and act exactly like social justice warriors, like the kind of people that they hate, but for the opposite causes, like defending the rights of men and for white people. Although they're most likely doing that just to hide the insecurities that they have about themselves, and they're too afraid to actually confront that. But that's another story right there. But anyways, the whole point that I'm making is that one of the biggest reasons why the original Boss Baby was a huge hit at the box office, and keep in mind, it's actually going really successful considering that it is making, as I'm recording this, it's almost making $500 million worldwide at the box office, that people are making comparisons to Donald Trump. It has that Trump novelty to actually make it relevant, to have people talking about it, you know, to make people make that comparison, to make people aware that Boss Baby is actually a thing. So, when 2021 will come in, where Trump is completely out of the picture, and most likely also the GOP, like, there's gonna be nothing. Like, really, when you take Trump out of the equation of the Boss Baby, what do you get? Honestly, nothing, really. You only have just this animated film that barely offers much. It doesn't even offer really a story. Like I said before, this is a movie where Alec Baldwin is just being Alec Baldwin, but in a baby's body. And that's pretty much it. So really, how can you continue that? Really, when it just feels, because of that Trump novelty, the Boss Baby is more like a product of its time. And it's not DreamWorks' fault. It's mainly because of how audiences interpret it, how audiences treat it. They're the reasons why the Boss Baby feels more like a product of its time and may not continue forward, or at least the success of it would probably not continue when 2021 comes in, where, like, whatever new president that the United States is gonna get, like, they're not gonna make comparisons to the Boss Baby the same way that they're gonna compare it to Donald Trump. That's not gonna happen. So, yeah, that's overall my feelings why it doesn't necessarily make sense for DreamWorks to actually make a Boss Baby 2, because creatively, I don't really see how you can continue the story, considering that the movie pretty much wraps up all to make this standalone movie where it doesn't necessarily need a sequel. Like, any continuations that it seems to hint out, it's not necessarily what you would expect with the adventures of Tim and the Boss Baby himself. And also in terms of a business standpoint, because like I said, it has this massive Trump novelty where part of the reason why the Boss Baby was so relevant is because of the comparisons with Donald Trump. So by 2021, there's not really going to be that comparison to make, and not many people are really going to care that much when the Boss Baby 2 is actually going to be coming out. So I don't really know. Overall, I feel like the biggest reason why DreamWorks Animation actually decided to go ahead and make a Boss Baby 2 is pretty much corporate impulse. They didn't necessarily think of why they need to make a Boss Baby 2. They just immediately went ahead and just go ahead and do it, you know? It's kind of like the same reason why they kind of went and decided to go and make Trolls 2, actually, since there's starting to be a bit of a theme that DreamWorks Animation is starting to make a franchise out of their inferior films right now. Like, they can't just always rely on just Shrek, Madagascar, How to Train Your Dragon, and Kung Fu Panda. They need more in their roster, so I guess they want to go and do more with the Boss Baby and Trolls and stuff like that. But yeah, it is more corporate impulse where they don't necessarily think of why they need to do it. They just know they have to do it because the Boss Baby is making a lot of money. And it could be possible that, like Trolls, it could be more the fact that it's not necessarily how it's performing at the box office, but also because of all the merchandising and stuff like that. You know, maybe there are plenty of other factors why the Boss Baby was such a huge hit for DreamWorks. I mean, there is definitely a lot of merchandising that you can find related to the Boss Baby, so maybe it's also for that as well, that it is a pretty large corporate franchise, so that's why they would want to go and continue that in the future. But Yeah, honestly, at this point, with the way that DreamWorks is making a Boss Baby 2, it's going to be hard for me to feel like it's either going to be a good movie or if it's even going to be a successful movie. But who knows how it's going to go. But if you guys are excited to actually see a Boss Baby 2, then all you have to do is just wait until March 26, 2021 for that movie's release. And that is all that I've got for this week, so thank you guys so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can go and find my work on film-book.com. All you have to do is search for Mathieu Brunet or the Animation Podcast. Oh, and you can also go and find me on Twitter at AniMat505. Now, if you have listened to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little favor and rate and review this episode? That would be lovely. And if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that like button on our video and leave us a little comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!